Hello and welcome to another Drive-In Double Feature. I'm Ryan.
I'm Nathan.
And this is the podcast where we talk about two movies a week, every Tuesday and Thursday. But before I get into anything, we have a Patreon over at patreon.com/driveindoublefeaturepodcast. Just a couple of websites that we have where we have a couple of fun conversations where Nathan and I talk about movies, play a couple of games. Who knows what kind of mischief we'll get into, but just something fun we give to you fans out there for supporting us. But if you choose not to, do not worry. It does not affect any regular content. But today, we're going to be talking about 1971's Doc, directed by Frank Perry. It is a retelling or revision, rather, of the famous gunfight at the OK Corral, which has Doc Holliday and Wyatt Earp as the two main characters. This is that same story, just kind of told in a very different way. Doc Holliday is the main character, when it's usually Wyatt Earp who's like the main character in these movies. So I don't know how many of these other adaptations you've seen, but this is now my fourth movie I've seen of this famous fight, of this famous gun battle.
Really? Okay.
The four I've seen was My Darling Clementine with Henry Fonda.
Mm-hmm.
The second one was the gunfight at the OK Corral with Burt Lancaster and Kirk Douglas. And the third one was Tombstone, Kurt Russell and Val Kilmer. And now this is the fourth one.
Yeah. You want to know something? I have not seen any of those movies. So this is my first time with this one.
Okay. Well, I'm good. Actually, that's actually good, because now we can each have a different perspective of this story.
Yeah. Because I could imagine that hearing this story again, because watching this, I was like, okay, this is the plot of Tombstone, because I know the plot of Tombstone, and I was like, okay, the gunfight at OK Corral, I know that's a movie. Kevin Costner has that 3-hour Wyatt Earp movie, so I know this story's been told a million times. But yeah, I was watching, it's like, I've never seen any of those movies, so this is all pretty fresh to me. So yeah, how did you feel about it after seeing this story like for a fourth time?
Well, this one, it's very much a Doc Holliday type of movie, and the other movies are more kind of lead ups to the big gunfight. Like, it's usually they arrive into town and Johnny Ringo and all the other bad guys are kind of teaming up, and like, it's usually those other movies, it's like this kind of like looming, like doom and gloom in the air, like, oh, like this big fight's going to happen at any time and we got to be ready for it, type of thing. Wyatt Earp in all those other movies is usually the main character. He's always portrayed as this very heroic, very valiant type of character that's just trying to keep the town at peace, type of thing. And then Doc Holliday is usually very sick in the movie. He usually has some type of I think it's tuberculosis that he's dealing with. And like I said, this is based off of a real thing that happened. And Doc Holliday is usually like a very reluctant type of gunfighter, just sort of like not ready to. Yeah, he's a great man. He's He's like, in the movies, he's usually portrayed as like best friends with Wyatt Earp, but he's just kind of like, hey, I'm past that gunslinging days. Like, I'm retired now. Like, I don't want to get involved in all that. So he's very reluctant. And this one is kind of that same thing with Doc Holliday, but Wyatt Earp is like, does a complete 180 in this movie. Okay. This is like an anti movie of like all those other ones.
That's funny, because I guess I didn't. I mean, I noticed about Wyatt Earp, but I guess I didn't think it was like the antithesis of the other movies. I was like, dang, Wyatt Earp is kind of a crappy person. He's like kind of like a negative Nancy this whole movie. Yeah, so I guess that's an interesting way to put it. Well, actually, I mean, we'll get into it, but Wyatt Earp at first comes off as like a pretty decent person, but then you kind of go down this rabbit hole of like, oh, maybe it's all looks and it's actually something a little darker, deeper down.
Well, yeah. So the main plot with Wyatt Earp is that he's the town marshal, but he's actually running for sheriff, and he's really gunning for that position. He's been campaigning all over the town, and he's talking about cleaning up the streets and that type of thing. And he kind of starts out as like kind of like a tough lawman, not very like sadistic or anything like that. Just kind of like, get out of my town, like type of thing. And there is like a gang that sets foot into the town, and he tries to kick them out at first, but then he starts doing these really type of like slimy tactics just to like gain political favor. Like there at one point, one of the bank stagecoaches gets robbed, and he wants to catch the bad guy, and he's basically telling the gang like, hey, give me one of your own, you guys can keep the reward money and I'll get the glory, type of thing.
Yeah, exactly. So he's just kind of like, he'll do anything to win his election, and I don't know, it's really interesting playing against our main character, Doc Holliday. Well, I mean, I feel like we'll go back right to the start of the movie with Doc Holliday.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, absolutely.
Played by Stacy Keach, and I want to say I think Stacy Keach in this is great. I think he is awesome as Doc Holliday. He really has the brooding, like, what I like about this movie, and there's a lot of things I like about this movie, is everybody looks like a real person. Like, there's no one really looks like, made up Hollywood type person. Everyone's dirty, grimy, and they all kind of look real. And Stacy Keach kind of embodies that to me. He's a very everyman type of guy. And I think the way he plays Doc here is really cool. But one of the first scenes in this movie when he's in the bar, I think this scene is tense. When they're in there playing cards, and he's just like, I'm playing you for the woman. And there's Faye Dunaway there. And then they play cards the whole time, and it's just a very slow, drawn out game, and you don't know who's gonna win. It's this guy versus the cowpoke, and just really tense. Great direction.
I haven't seen every Stacy Keach movie, but pretty much everything I've seen him in, I thought he was great in. One of his other roles, because I remember him from like sitcoms and stuff. Like he was on this other show called Titus. I thought he was really funny on that. Yeah. But as far as his actual movie roles, another one he does too is Fat City, which came out right after this one. Also, really great role of his, and that I liked him a lot. But this one, it's a very subdued type of role. It's just very cool under pressure type of character. I mean, you could tell there's a lot weighing on his mind when like all this stuff is going down, but he very rarely lets his emotions get the better of him.
Yeah, exactly. I think I really like how that's played. And you know how you're talking about like his sickness kind of defines him in his other movies. I feel like in this one, he doesn't let it define him in any way. It pops up and he's sick, but he doesn't let that be his characteristic. Like he's able to work through it and be himself.
Well, yeah, and there's lots of scenes, especially in Tombstone, where Doc Holliday is just kind of like laid up in bed, looks super sickly, type of thing, and it's like to the point where you're like, is he going to be well enough to even be in this gunfight by the end of the movie? And this one, like he deals with a lot of this illness in private. It's usually very late at night. He's just like coughing up a lung, and he's just trying to just feel comfortable enough just to sleep, but he's coughing so hard that he can't like even feel comfortable ever.
He downs alcohol to kind of take the pain away almost.
But like you said, Faye Dunaway is in this movie, and she plays a prostitute in this, and it's, to me, it's I guess I wouldn't have thought of her in this role because I guess this is still technically before like big movie star Faye Dunaway, because she had done
Bonnie and
Clyde, but she hadn't. This is still like before Network. This is still before Chinatown and all those where she was like big megastar Faye Dunaway. So I liked her a lot in this movie. I mean, she gives a great performance. She plays a prostitute, like I said, and at first she's just kind of like her and Doc go into she just uses him for a ride pretty much, and they're like riding into town and to Tombstone, and they have really great interactions. Like there's a scene where they're at a campfire, like right before they get there, and there's not a whole lot of food, so she eats like a can of beans, and he's like, beans make you fart, right? And she's like, shut up. And then like as they're going to sleep, he's like, by the way, make sure you don't point your ass at the fire. I don't want to explode.
Yeah, I thought that was that's like the one bit of humor. There's humor every once in a while in this movie, but that was like the one like really like overt joke in the movie. I thought that was interesting.
It took me by surprise, but it's but after that, like after they get into town, this movie pumps the brakes a lot.
It does.
But not a bad thing, though, I will say.
No, this movie is very slow. It's kind of weird the way I thought of it. It almost becomes a slice of life kind of movie where it's not really about plot anymore. It's kind of about Doc Holliday and how he interacts with this town and how everybody interacts with him. Because Faye Dunaway, I mean, she's in the movie for a little bit as like almost a side character, and then she kind of gains status again, and it just becomes kind of about Doc Holliday. I will say I love the look of this town, by the way. Westerns, I feel like Western streets tend to feel a little dead, but this town feels big and it's full of people. The amount of extras for a lot of these scenes, it's insane. Like the saloon, it's just wall-to-wall people.
It's the set design in this is like crazy good, and they you could tell they really went all out for it. I mean, even like there's later where Doc Holliday gets his own house where him and Faye Dunaway can live in, and it's so. What I like is like when they first enter in, it's like this really dingy looking, like it looks like a shack basically, and he's really annoyed, like, oh, like I thought this was going to be better, but she's just so happy, like, to be with him that she's like, that's fine, we'll fix it up, no problem. But this movie, okay.
No, I was gonna say the scene leading up to that's really funny, where she's in the brothel and he just runs in and grabs her. And he's like, "You're not working here no more," and then like that's how they get together, pretty much.
Well, yeah. So the movie is. It's Doc Holliday's movie. I mean, like I said, it's him and his developing romance with her, and then also his interactions with Wyatt Earp, and then basically Wyatt Earp's like descent into his like sadistic side. Yeah,
because it seems like so nice at first. Like he meets up with Wyatt Earp, and he's like, "Yeah, I like you. I want you to work for me." And then you just start to see this like really negative side, because they even have a party together. Like I really like the party scene where it's Doc Holliday talking to people, but it's not the conversations, it's other people talking in the background over it, and that's where he has like a coughing fit. His coughing is so gross in this movie. Stacy Keach went the full 9 yards with the coughing. There's spit and everything.
I'm about to say there's like one where he's laying in bed and he's naked and he's like coughing so hard that he's just like he just like his mouth is just like foaming, and just like there's like like huge, like it's just like spit, it's just like hanging out of his mouth. It sounds disgusting.
Yes, it does. But like you said, this movie pumps its brakes. So honestly, not a crazy amount happens in these moments. There's moments that happen, but it's definitely kind of like a lingering feeling, kind of like hanging out almost. But I don't mind that. I mean, I feel like the movie sticks to that and it never really leaves it. And I think it's very consistent with its tone, at least. It's not like it slows down for no reason. It's slow for a reason.
It's this very haunting imagery. Like I think of how like this movie looks a lot, like not so much like the story behind it, but just like the like images that they would be in, like they have like the scene where it's them like out in the field and they're having a good time laughing, or like I said, it's just like these really long town scenes. There's one scene too where Doc Holliday actually befriends one of the rival gang called the Clantons.
Yeah, the Clantons.
And he befriends like the youngest kid, and the youngest kid doesn't know how to shoot a gun, so he's like, "Oh, well, I'll teach you." And he takes him out and just shows him how to use a gun. And eventually, that does hurt him in the end because the kid's kind of a hothead too, and the kid ends up killing somebody in a bar because he claimed that he was trying to come after him or whatever. But
no, exactly. So like that's what it is. Doc Holliday has his moments where, like, you know, he's happy, but it always leads to negativity, because the same thing happens with Faye Dunaway. They're really happy for the longest time, but by the end of the movie, Faye Dunaway is just over Doc Holliday, because I guess Doc's problem is he wants to settle down. He wants to not be the contracted killer that he once was, but he also wants to do something with his life. And one of the best moments, because you said he keeps it cool throughout the whole movie with his emotions, but the part when he's at the bar and he's just drinking and crying, it's like, wow, it was just such a break from the character so late in the movie that scene, it was kind of heartbreaking to see. He's like, I just want to be something. I want to be somebody.
Yeah, he's just wanting to find some type of normalcy to this, and but he never really finds it. Like, he starts getting really close, and then all of a sudden something bad happens. And there's one scene where Wyatt Earp like confronts the gang, and he takes Doc Holliday with him. Yeah, and this kind of destroys the whole visage of the vision of Wyatt Earp, like I said, because like I said in these other movies, like Wyatt Earp's very brave, very heroic type of guy. I mean, in this movie, like I said, he does do like some crazy things. Like, these guys are fighting in his town, and this guy, he just like hits him with the butt of his gun, just like totally just knocks him out cold. Just like, no, definitely not a very heroic thing to do. And then at the end, when they confront the gang, like, this is before the gunfight, but they go and confront the gang and get their hideout. One of the gang guys just like beats the absolute crap out of Wyatt Earp. Like punches him in the face, kicks him in the groin, type of thing. And like, Wyatt Earp did not stand a chance. Like, he gets annihilated right away. And the guy just says, like, "Not so tough now without your guns, huh?" Like, just totally just emasculated him, just made him look like a fool.
Yeah, I guess now that you put it that way, that it is like destroying the legend of Wyatt Earp, which is crazy. Because Doc is there and he kind of watches, and he finally steps in and is like, hey, stop. But
he comes in very late to do that too.
He lets him get the crap kicked out of him for a while. That's actually a really interesting perspective, because I know, like, looking at trailers and taglines for this movie, that's like, oh, these stories have never been told. You've never seen this story told this way, because it's part of that movement, the revisionist Western movement, where it's supposed to be like, you know, the 50s, 60s were kind of a bright, colorful Western world. This was like the negative, like, oh, this is what it really was like, guys.
Well, yeah, there wasn't, it's like that anti-Western type of thing, like, and because before, you know, it'd be like the smiling cowboy with like a white hat and like, you know, "Howdy, ma'am," and then you'd find like the bad guy had like a black hat on or something, and it'd be something like totally cut and dry like that, like, you're good, you're evil. And this one, it's very like, there's a lot of gray involved.
Exactly.
And that kind of leads up to the actual final showdown. And like I said, every other movie, it lead like that. The showdown is like the big main event. That's the climax of the movie. I mean, and it's usually a pretty long gunfight, and they make a huge deal out of this one. In this movie, I remember, because it was leading up to the gunfight. Because at first, like I said, Doc Holliday doesn't want anything to do with it, and then Wyatt Earp goes like total psycho and threatens to kill his wife, Faye Dunaway, and basically just like, your man did this, like, this is, this is gonna be your fault if this town goes to hell, type of thing. And like, just he puts his political aspirations before his friendship with Doc Holliday, and he's like, "I will do anything to become sheriff, even if it means killing you," type of thing.
exactly.
And like I said, the gunfight at the OK Corral was like usually the big climax, but when it was leading up to it in this movie, they were talking about it happening. I'm like, oh, is there like, so there's got to be like another 30 minutes. And I was like, there was 5 minutes left. I'm like, oh my God. Like this is like
yeah, it is the ultimate anticlimax movie. Like maybe not the ultimate, but like a huge anticlimactic, like it's so depressing. I loved it. I personally thought it was incredible that they ended this movie like this.
It was I loved it just because it's something you would never see in a Western where it's like, because usually in the West, like even like a typical Western, like there'll be like a big duel and it's like the sun's rising and like everything's perfect and it just like it looks so cinematic in other movies. And this one, it's like the gang has showed up, the Clantons that showed up, they're all lined up in a row, and Wyatt Earp and Doc Holliday are all lined up with Wyatt Earp's two brothers that he brought with him, and it's just like go, and it just like it's over in 30 like in a couple of seconds.
Yeah, which I was reading, I guess, is a little closer to what truly happened in real life, which is funny, where it was just kind of like they shot each other and then like in just a small patch of land, because like you said, like with the sun up and then like you imagine like a giant street, it's literally like this crappy piece of land, there's like a fence there, it's like nowhere.
It looks like a pig pen like type of thing. It's just like it's like the same, like if you go to like a ranch and you see like the little circle where like a horse will trot around, that's about what it looked like. And they totally just go for that route where it lasts. It's super quick, and Wyatt Earp just like no justice at all, just totally blows these bad guys away, just like not even like trying to implement some type of justice. It's kind of just like, I'm just going to murder these people in the street type of thing. And then the kid that Doc Holliday had befriended, he's the only one left standing, and Doc Holliday kind of realizes like, I created this monster, so I have to kill him. So then he just shoots the kid like right in the chest.
Doc Holliday rides away on his horse, and he's just like, and he gets asked like, why'd you kill the kid? And he's like, and he said exactly that. He's just like, I created something, and I know where that future heads. I know where it's gonna go, and it has to be killed. And it's just kind of depressing, a depressing look of the West. And there's something. Go ahead.
No, I agree. It's just in other movies, again, it's just kind of like it's this huge fanfare, like the town's going like, it's done. He's dead. And then they're all throwing their hats in the air, or like the girl comes running up and like, gives them a smooch or something. But this one, it's just like, they're dead. Everything is a lot worse now. And then he just like, I'm leaving. Doesn't even talk to Wyatt Earp. Doesn't even like talk to him afterwards. Just like, I'm out of here type of thing.
Exactly. Just to be alone again, kind of like at the beginning of the movie, almost drifting. But no, I guess I personally really like Doc. It might be a little slow for some, I think, but I think it's like a trip worth taking. It's really neat. Just as kind of like a completely different Western.
Felt the same way. I completely enjoyed this one as well. It's very much just like it's like I said, it's an anti-Western. It's just, I've seen so many of these because like I've said before in the past, my dad loves Westerns, and he would show me a lot of like John Wayne's and like Clint Eastwood and things like that. So it's very much just like, this was definitely not like a Western I had seen before, where it was just so bleak and hopeless like the whole time. And I really like the shot at the end of the movie when he's just like getting his picture taken. It's just, again, he just has like this mouth, his mouth is just like open and just like gets his picture taken. It's just, I don't know. It felt so appropriate.
Yeah, well, it's funny. Comparisons to this and White Buffalo, they end in the exact same way, where it's portraits of them and it shows how they died and what years they were alive, which I thought was an interesting comparison.
Well, okay, so I'm glad you brought this up because I wasn't going to mention it, but since you mentioned White Buffalo again, I'm going to say it now. Did you look at the actual ages that they were when they died?
No.
So, like so Charles Bronson and Will Sampson, they're like mid 50s, something like that.
They're older. Yeah.
Okay, they were not. The Crazy Horse and Wild Bill were not even 40 when they died. They were like 35 when they died.
Neither of those men look that young.
Not even close to looking like they're in their 30s.
No.
Now, Stacy Keach, though, he actually was 30 at the time of that movie.
Gotcha. Okay.
And and I think Doc Holliday was like 35 when he died. So.
Okay, that's a closer comparison.
But I mean, to me, it's just he looks like the part. I mean, it was cast really well, and I do like other performances of Doc Holliday. Like I said, I mean, Val Kilmer probably has the most famous Doc Holliday role, and
that's what I know.
Everybody always quotes it, like "I'll be your Huckleberry" type of thing, and it's just. But for me, it's like I had seen this story told 3 other times, and it's all pretty much beat for beat, almost the exact same. And it was such a nice change of pace to see the story told from a different lens that it was one that I really enjoyed quite a lot.
Yeah, no, it's a good one. Highly recommend.
Well, perfect. I think that will be it. But Nathan, what are we going to be talking about next week?
All right, Ryan. So next week on Tuesday, we're going to be talking about Tenebrae, directed by Dario Argento. Yes, another Giallo movie. That is like our bread and butter on this show.
Can't wait. Should be a great time. Actually, I think that's our first Argento movie.
It is our first Argento, yeah.
Yeah, that's surprising. The wait took that long, but
I know it's Craig Bronson, Argento.
But anyway, if you have any memories of this movie, or you want to talk about Wild Bill or Doc Holliday or Wyatt Earp, send us an email over to driveindoublefeaturepodcast@gmail.com. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter at DIDFpod. Once again, check out the Patreon at patreon.com/driveindoublefeaturepodcast. But until next time, partner.
Yeehaw! Until next time.